Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Andrew David. This is Blake Newbar's partner program, your Monday through Friday daily high performance call, turning you into high performers, helping you guys overcome obstacles, become better than you were yesterday, finding a way to develop yourselves into the amazing individuals that you are. I want to talk today. I prepped a few slides looking at, I wanted to look at some of the personality and behaviors of the rich, right? Wealthy people, okay? Whatever the reason was that you got started, I think we can all agree that money is going to help you accomplish a lot of it, right? And we've talked about this before. You can't help someone if your own cupboard is empty, right? And that's the simple fact. You know, I've worked with a number of nonprofits with amazing missions, you know, one of them in the addiction recovery space, and their mission is to go out and help certify other addiction recovery coaches and to help facilities and do all of that. But they need money to do that. They have items that they've got to sell to bring them in money because they can't just rely on, you know, money from other people. And so I wanted to talk about some of those elements. We want to look at what you guys need and some personality things that you can work on. But with that, as I was studying that, I was looking at different things, and there are personality quirks. There are things that'll happen. And while all of that was going on, I got a couple of messages from someone that lost a family member. You know, I had a conversation with my attorneys last night, and then I have a friend that's in the hospital right now. And all of them are men. And we happen to be in, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Last week was Men's Mental Health Awareness Week. How many of you guys knew that? Either drop it in the chat or raise a hands. Nobody, right? James did, but pretty much nobody else. Why do you think that is? For most of the world, men are taught in a big way. Calvert knew. Okay. So we've got 30 people on here, 2 people new, right? There's a large percentage of the population on this planet that have been taught for years that men sharing emotions, men dealing with things isn't manly. And I'm not even talking about toxic masculinity. I'm not talking about that. And a lot of that I don't agree with, and we could talk about that. But yeah, men don't take care of themselves nearly enough. When we have those emotions, we suppress them, right? Men, there's this awesome video on YouTube, I'll have to find it, but where not just the men are from Mars, women are from Venus, but the way that men compartmentalize things versus the way that women's minds think. Men separate. You know, I've had to learn how to do that throughout my life. I separate things. Yeah, take care of the family first. Take care of your loved ones first. Look out for other people. You know, and we're not talking about those that are dealing with narcissism. We're talking about, you know, most people that are out there. Real men don't eat quiche. Yeah, or don't wear pink, or don't do this, or don't cry in front of big boys don't cry, right? You know, it's something that isn't addressed enough, but it should be. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this today, but I'm going to say a couple of things, right? If you are in any way, especially men and women, all of you guys, but for you women, look, what a lot of men are, the way a lot of men think when you're asking, you know, when women want to talk and oftentimes want to talk about feelings, hey, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going on? A lot of times a guy is going to say nothing, and they really mean nothing. But when there is a problem, it's difficult for us to share, right? Things are going wrong at work. You know, we may complain about it a little bit, but a lot of times we kind of swallow it up. If we're having a disagreement, instead of saying, hey, this happened, honey, and the way that you said this or the way that this happened kind of frustrated me, and this is how I feel about it, and I'd like us to be able to talk about it so that it doesn't happen again. Instead of doing that, we're not going to bring it up because we don't want to upset you and rock the boat for future, you know, going into the next day and week and whatever, where we're going to feel like it's going to come back on us in whatever way, even if it's not. That's what we're scared of doing. If we lose a friend or a family member, you know, like my friend who's who just lost a family member, instead of him being in pain, he's taking off to go help the family take care of everything because he's the one that helps solve problems. Right? This buddy that's sitting in the hospital, he's there, and it took him time. He didn't go in right away, even though he should have been there last week. He didn't go in right away because talking with his significant other, he didn't want to upset her and throw her schedule off, having to take him into the hospital and maybe spending a couple of days, because he figured it was probably something serious. But instead of doing that, he waited over the weekend because she had planned something for him for Father's Day and he didn't want to upset that. But that's what a lot of men do, right? Right or wrong, that's just how it is. So if you're a guy, so real quick, if a man fails to develop his female side, his anima, he's only living half a life. Young is not happy, I'm quite sure. Weeping and emotions that are sad cleanse the soul. We were taught in martial arts to let everything out, decrease stress. It decreases stress phenomenally. Absolutely. So the point of all of this, guys, first off, be more conscientious of, for you men, be more conscientious of yourself, be more willing to share things, be more willing to do little things like what I did yesterday, made me giggle. Okay, I'm outside, 41 years old, running around in my swimsuit, splashing through puddles. Absolutely ridiculous. But it made me giggle some, right? It tapped into an emotion that oftentimes we suppress, because it's not just the sad things, it's the positive. If you're in a position where you need a little bit of help, reach out, talk, share a thought. Some of you guys have done that in the chat. Say, hey, it hasn't been easy to say this, but I mean, even saying something generally in a position like that, work on being vulnerable, because we could go around the room and make a list of what everyone has had to deal with, and I promise you, you're not alone in what you're dealing with. For you women, with the men that are in your life, and it doesn't have to be a husband or a loved one, it could be a brother, it could be a father, it could be a friend, whatever. Understand that typically men aren't going to deal with emotions or situations or things in the same way that you are. Sometimes they may not want to necessarily talk about it, but they want to know that your presence is there. They want to know that they're supported in their dreams, right? They want to know that I've always been straightforward with how I'm feeling better getting it out than holding it in. Ernie's saying that. So it really is, guys, it does feel better getting it out. It's not easy, but it does feel better, especially if you've never been that way. And I wasn't for a long, long time, and I've worked to do it. And there are people that you can feel safe with in order to do it. Now, if that is a therapist or a psychologist, right, so a licensed professional, then do it. If it is a clergy member, a group at church, do it. If it's me, if it's someone else that you've met, if it's a friend that you can go out with and sit it and have a drink or go play golf or whatever, but do it and talk and not just go play golf. You've got to communicate. You got to open up. But just for everybody, be a little more conscientious of it, especially. And again, this is one of those things where, yes, we're more aware of it this month, but don't make it just this month. Don't be just aware of breast cancer in November. Don't understand that, Black History Month is February. It should be, all of these things should be all of the time, all of the time. It's ridiculous that all of this stuff is not, right? Just be more aware. Hopefully you go out, study a little bit. And if you're one of those guys that's kind of going, you know what? Yeah, I think I could probably use a little bit of work. If just this little bit of conversation gets you to go grab something and think a little bit about it, then awesome. And if you've got a question about where to find it, guys, there's all sorts of stuff on Google, but reach out and I'll try and point you in the right direction. I'll try and help you out. If it's, something psychological, if it's an addiction that you've got, if it's some kind of help, if it's just motivation to keep yourself moving, send an email and I'll try and see what I can do. Okay. So on that awesome and fun and uplifting and motivational note, I did want to go over a couple of things. And this came about because I was studying this and then just everything built up over the last couple of days. So what I want to do is I want to share just kind of 5 quick characteristics that you can look at for those that are, well, before I move on, Does anybody have any comments or questions or thoughts about what I just talked about? Men's mental health and everything else. Michael, feel free to chime in. Anybody else about any of this?
You are absolutely right as usual, Andrew.
Okay.
What part of it? It's a serious thing that should be rectified. Okay, because if you look at people who are really successful in life, I don't mean like a predator, okay, but in the arts and stuff, you know, a lot of the men who aren't gay, not there's anything wrong with that, have a really well developed feminine intuitive side.
Yeah.
And they attract people, men and women, to them. Just because they're comfortable.
Because it's open, it's honest, and it's transparent. Guys, in your marketing, if you're willing to be open and honest and you're transparent, you're going to connect with people more. Curtis is saying here, his comment, the quality of my personal relationship with wife was dramatically improved beyond a 10, was trusting and having intimate conversations, not just sex, but something about what I was feeling with. Here's the thing about most men. Okay, this is a lot of men coming from a man. I'm, at least last time I woke up. There's a lot of reasons we have these stereotypes and these jokes, and men are visual, men love intimate touch. But if you're able to kind of tap in like Curtis is as a woman, if you're able to help draw out, because not all men are going to be willing to get into the intimate side of a conversation, right? But for you men, intimacy beyond just physical contact. And for you women, if you're able to help it without, maybe I need to put together something and drawing out an intimate conversation without pushing a man and feeling like you're nagging and like saying, you never talk about your feelings, you never talk about your emotions. And with, fathers and brothers too. Why do you always hide that? Like, it's the worst conversation to have. It's just like a man trying to say, honey, you need to calm down, right? Why are you so stressed? Knock it off. The conversations don't go well, but being able to do like what he's talking about here and building up an intimacy with someone. Now, this can be, you can do the same thing with friends. Men, you can have an intimate, emotional relationship with a guy. I mean, a lot of you have someone that you would consider even closer than, I've got friendships that are closer than my brother because I've been willing to have that conversation with them. I've been willing to open up and talk. And sometimes that's what's needed. Be willing to talk. Right? Find those moments, even if it's a question here or there, but be that emotional support and be willing to work with that. Okay. Ernie's saying 2 older sisters that helped. That's fantastic. And that I'm more emotionally open than my sister, right? My older sister. I didn't learn it from her. I'll tell you that. I sure as hell didn't learn it from my dad, who's about as closed off as you can be. But I also know that there's things that I constantly have to work on. Right. And and all of you guys, your wife is the best friend, all this, like, good for you guys. But for those of you that aren't, or if you're a gentleman that's more alone, whether a spouse has passed on or you've gone through a divorce or whatever, seek out companionship in one way or another, guys. And for you women, same thing, right? Just because it's men's mental health awareness doesn't mean all of this doesn't apply to you guys as well. If you need support, if you need friendship, feel free to reach out. If you need to connect with a therapist, then don't keep it back. Okay. So I almost feel awkward transitioning this into the lifestyle and personalities of the rich and famous. So I don't think I'm going to do that right now. We're going to dive into that tomorrow. I talk a lot about self-awareness. This is where it starts, guys. You got to recognize whether or not you're healthy. Okay. So, I don't know if there's a list of questions that we can come up with to just help you do that. But sit down and kind of imagine, actually, it's a perfect segue, Andrew. Well, okay, let's look at that. Because there are some personality traits of those that generate wealth and those that are healthy from an emotional standpoint. Okay, so that's how we're going to connect the two. Okay, we're going to look at those that make money at a higher level. Now, here's the thing, just for kind of point of reference, the average income in the United States is about $35,000 to $40,000 a year. They work 35 to 45 hours a week. That's the average. I want you to think about wherever you're at in the world, think about the average income. Now, if you earn over $40,000 a year, that puts you in the top 1% of income earners in the world. Now, obviously, that's proportional to where you live, and so things may vary. But first off, especially if you're here in the US and North America, you're in the UK, you're in one of these first world countries, recognize how blessed you are to begin with. Let's start there. Okay, recognize how blessed you are. Next, top 10% of income earners in the US is 160 and above. Wherever you're at in the world, I want you to go find the top 1% of income earners. There's a number, and it varies from anywhere between 50,000 to 480, 450 or something, I think is the US. So what I want to do is I want to look at personality and behavioral traits for those that generate revenue, because there are certain things that are healthy there. And then there's a way to look at some other items. So let's going to start with number one. Okay. Rich people tend to be extroverted. One of the things that Blake talked about on our high performance call last week, he talked about networking. So rich people are able to do that more. Now, I know a lot of you guys are introverted. I feel like I am situationally extroverted. I'm an introvert, but a situational extrovert. When the time comes, when it's needed, when I have to, I engage. I'm willing to listen. I know the importance of, and so I build relationships, right? Rich people, with being extroverted, there's an ability over time you can develop to motivate and inspire, but then also to genuinely connect. And so this goes to mental health, because if I'm willing to be open and honest, I can connect. If I keep everything blocked away, I'm going to struggle with that, right? If you are not naturally an extrovert, don't fret. You can still do it in certain situations. And it could just be one person that you bring into your circle that's an extrovert that helps draw you out occasionally, right? Maybe that's part of what you do, but this is kind of across the board. Next, rich people tend to be more conscientious. So what that means is when they make decisions, it's not just short-term goals, they're looking at long-term. They're willing to delay some gratification, right? It's what you need to do instead of just what I want to do. Rich people tend to marry well, get into better relationships. Now, it's not the way that you think. It doesn't mean marrying into money. What it means is they marry into a relationship where that person is also conscientious. That person is able to delay some gratification. That person fits some of these other things as well. Now, even if it's not marrying, it's looking at relationships. They're willing to build relationships with people. If all of the people around you are all about the short term, satisfy the immediate need, there's an uphill battle for you. So pay attention to those around you. Next, rich people tend to be more emotionally stable. If you're always making decisions based off of emotions, it is a recipe for slowing down your progress towards long-term goals. Okay. Next, they're less neurotic. They don't go haywire. They don't always become negative, get frustrated, anxious, anxiety, moodiness, worry, fear. Oh my gosh, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. Psychologists call it negative arousal. If every action or every concern causes a negative feeling, if that is the initial feeling that you get, you're going to struggle with money and success pathways. And as you listen, I'm sure a lot of you can see how that would affect you. If you're constantly negative, if every time an opportunity or a situation comes up, you're more concerned with the negative impact versus the positive possible outcome. If you get into a situation and the moodiness flares up, if you're in a relationship and your partner asks you why you're always in a mood, there are things that you should work on. Study negative arousal and look at that. Okay. And actually, just to look at this real quick with being less neurotic and looking at that negative arousal. And also being emotionally stable. So putting those two together as you're making decisions with business, if we're looking at being a situational extrovert and we're more introverted, if we're struggling with all of these things, let's say we have an opportunity, and we're going to use, because Blake was talking about networking. So we'll talk about an event. Let's say Blake doesn't have any on the, I'm pushing him. I'm so pushing him to do a live event because obviously I enjoy them. Hopefully one day we do. So let's say there's an opportunity for a live event and it's open to everybody. And we do it for, $197. We do it for nice and cheap just to get you in. And it's one of those where it's just enough of a commitment to get you in the door, to get you to show up, right? And we're going to do 3 days of training. And it's going to cost you, $100 a night at the hotel, $197 for the event, $97 for the event, whatever. And then travel there. So, man, it's going to cost me $1,000 overall to go do this. Ballpark, right? More or less, whatever. We hold it somewhere where everyone can get the cheapest flights possible. And we hold this event and we get all of you guys there, as many people as we can. And it's going to be awesome. Blake's going to be training. I'm going to be training. We're going to fly Darren in. We're going to get all these other people. It's just going to be this amazing event. Some of you are going to do everything you can to get there. Like everything, no matter what, I'm going to move heaven and earth. I'm going to make that happen. Some of you are going to want to, and then you're going to go, well, I would, but man, that's like, 4 days is what I'm going to have to put aside because I've got to travel there and back. So maybe it's even 5 days and I'm spending $1,000. So, I mean, what would happen? Maybe I get in a car accident on the way, or there's a problem with the plane. What if I get caught up? Or if I'm traveling, what if I run into someone there? And even though I've gotten the vaccine, I run into someone and I get COVID and you know what, maybe it's just better that I stay at home and maybe they'll record it and I can get the recording and that'll be just as good. Right. Whereas other people are going to say, yeah, there's those concerns, but maybe there's someone there. And if I go, I can meet someone. And that relationship or those relationships are what's going to make the next 5 years for me. And I'm going to hear something that just doesn't make it onto the recording. Like in between sessions, there's going to be this opportunity. I'm going to run into Blake in the hallway and I'm going to walk up and say, hey, I've been doing this for 6 months and I've achieved this. But man, what I'm really looking to do is get up to this level. And he just says this one sentence that just clicks. And the heavens open and the choir starts singing hallelujah and the light bulbs go off and all of a sudden things change. Right? Can we see the difference? I'm sure you guys can. And I'm sure you can see yourself in both of those scenarios. The problem is that the fear of encountering some kind of loss. I should be home. My family's going to miss me during that time. What if something happens? The fear of that kind of loss, studies have shown, is nearly twice as powerful in our brains as the possibility of a gain. And so we're more scared to take an action because of this is truly the one in a hand is worth more than two in a bush, even if the bush is right there. Okay. Rich people are the ones that are going to say, I'm going to get on that flight. As a matter of fact, I talk about reading books. They read 4 to 6 a month, whereas the regular person reads less than 1 a year. They're also more likely to attend events, conferences, and masterminds. Normally, people at a certain income level will attend, on average, 4 to 6 of those in a year. Obviously, last year doesn't really count, but typically they're looking at more, right? Because they understand the power of networking and getting out of their comfort zone and finding themselves in a different environment and learning from a different position. All of those things to trigger in their mind those possibilities at more. Okay. So last little thing, and then I've got an example I want to share for you guys. Okay. So more emotionally stable, less neurotic, and then a little more self-centered. So what we're talking about here is being humbly arrogant. What I mean is there is this unwavering belief and expectation that you can and will succeed. So you put more pressure on yourself in a positive way, but you also understand that great achievements are almost always the result of a collective effort So yeah, I'm going to put the pressure on myself, but I'm going to have the belief that I can get there. But I also am going to know that I'm going to get there because I've got help. Believing you can achieve big things helps you get started. Knowing you need other people to make it happen helps you finish. Right? So here's an example. I want you to think how you would react. Be honest with yourself. Let's say I come up to you. I say, Nancy, Juliana, Calvert, hey, there's this locker in Dubai. Let's assume everybody's got their passport. There's a locker in Dubai. Inside that locker is a duffel bag full of money, and it's clean. It's a challenge, right? It's an actual challenge. We're gonna, documentary style, like it's legit. There's a duffel bag in Dubai in this locker. Inside that locker is $1 million. All you got to do is get there. Here's the key. By the way, you got 36 hours. Flights are going to cost you short term 10 grand. You got 36 hours. The locker's there. What are you going to do? Now, some people immediately say, this is bullcrap. It's not there. He's just playing with me. No, here it is. It's certified. Here's the pictures. You filmed that, you faked it, you made it up, you went to the bus station downtown, you took pictures there, it's all a lie. And they sit back on their chair and they go, this is a crazy thing, I'm gonna go do something like that, right? Some of them will say, well, man, that's amazing, but yeah, I can't come up with that. There's just no way I can do it. No way can I do it. And so they don't do anything. Other people will start and maybe they get something close and they start to get it going. Yeah, cannonball run. Start to get it going, and then they give up when they get a couple of grand, or they get close, but man, I gave it my all. I gave it a try. Okay. And then other people are going to find a way to make it happen no matter what. Now, extreme example, none of you guys are faced with that right now. Odds are none of us ever will be, unless you show up on Amazing Race and it's a whole other thing, right? We're not talking about that. I simply want you to look at it. These opportunities, a lot of you guys have had opportunities in your life similar to that. The event that I was imagining here, the hypothetical event that hopefully one day we can make happen here in Orlando or wherever. Hopefully we can do that, but it could be something real similar. And I say that because I've been able to go to some events like that where money was tight, right? I was running a cleaning business. I didn't have the money to get myself and my father-in-law, my partner at the time, we were tight getting there. We were careful about what we were eating when we were there. We're debating on whether or not we should go. Should we show up? Even one where I won an opportunity to go to the Genius Mastermind with Joe Polish, where I got to go to LA. We're staying at the Standard Hotel. Richard Branson's going to be there. All of these entrepreneurs that you guys have heard of. Brendan Burchard was there. Seth Godin was there. Dean Graziosi was there. Sean Stevenson. The guys that run Beachbody, Planet, or P90X. All of these guys are going to be there. I won an opportunity to go. I'm trying to figure out how to get the money for it at the time. How am I going to get there? What am I going to do? Is it really going to be a big deal? If we miss it, we miss it. It's not much. They'll record it. We can get the recording. Same thing. No, not at all. Guys, rich people find a way to take advantage of that. But in order to do that, they put themselves in a situation where emotionally and mentally they're more stable. They recognize opportunities. They're slow to, they don't act off of emotion, but they do so much work gathering information that when they do make a decision, it's an informed decision. Right? Because they're always learning. So when opportunities arise, they jump on it. They don't necessarily need to know the outcome. They just know that the opportunity is going to be there, and they have enough trust in themselves to make something happen. So those are some personalities, behaviors of those that generate wealth for themselves. Think a little bit about it. If you go, hey, that's not me, that's okay. Not all of those are me. But if you look at it and say, hey, some of those are, and I'm willing to work on the others, find a way to be situationally where you need to be, whether it's being an extrovert. work on your emotional stability for all of you. Find the help if you need it. But hopefully I gave you a little bit of food for thought for today. Everybody got their minds thinking a little bit, at least?
Yeah.
Does everybody think they'd find a way to come up with a 10K to go get that locker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get themselves on a plane to Dubai, make it happen.
It would happen.
Hey, Forrest, hell yeah. I'd be there.
And it's only
Get me what I
10K
need, and then
slow. I was
make it
going to say it's only 10K if you're too slow.
yeah,
If you're there first, you're good.
yeah, make it happen, guys. All right, you have the opportunities in front of you. You have relationships in front of you. You have people willing to support you. You've got an amazing opportunity with the partner program. You have all sorts of stuff that you can accomplish. But at a minimum, guys, find a way to make yourself smile today. Accomplish something. Check something off of your list. For those of you that are willing to share some of your bucket list items inside the Skype chat today. And on that note, we are going to get into some marketing tomorrow, guys. We'll dive in a little bit into that. And then Friday, I'm going to come live from the studio where I'll be filming some things. So appreciate you guys. Go out and be awesome. We'll talk soon.